The snowy peaks of the Himalayas, hidden by eternal clouds, have always kept secrets. The wind howls in the gorges as if it whispers ancient incantations. Hundreds of legends were born here, where people feel small and vulnerable. Legends about mountain spirits, mysterious creatures, and shadows flickering through the snow. And among them, one image repeats itself over and over again. A mysterious giant, covered with fur, whose footprints are lost in the depths of the valleys. He is called in different ways: Abominable Bigfoot, Meta, Mank, Yeti. Today you will hear the story that changed everything. The story of how a man first met a Yeti face to face. Legends that come from the depths of time. In Highland villages, old people around the campfire tell the children. In the forests and gorges lives someone who was here before us. He is taller than any warrior, stronger than any beast. He guards the mountains, and whoever meets him will see the truth about himself. Someone said that the Yeti is the spirit of nature. Others say that this is a forgotten kind of people. But everyone agreed on one thing: meeting him was rare, almost impossible. Travelers and monks sometimes mention strange footprints in the snow in their chronicles. They were huge, with 5 fingers, too big for a human. But each time it remained a mystery, a reason for debate and doubt. The hero of the story. Our story begins with a young researcher named Andre. He was an inquisitive man, striving to prove to himself and the world that secrets can be revealed if you are not afraid to move forward. In winter, when the mountains were covered with snow, he went on an expedition. He was assigned to collect information about the flora and fauna of the highlands. But secretly, Andre dreamed of more. He was attracted by the legends he had heard from the locals. He wrote everything down in his diary. Today, an old man in the village said that he saw the shadow of a giant in the gorge. He didn't come close, only heard heavy footsteps. The locals don't go there even during the day. These stories excited Andre's imagination. He was willing to take risks just to see if it was true. The first traces. One morning, when the fog was still hanging over the gorge, he came across footprints in the snow. They were fresh. The huge feet went off into the distance to where the forest rose up the slope. Andre froze. They were not the tracks of a bear or a human. Each print was almost as long as his arm, from shoulder to hand. He couldn't help but feel a shudder. At first, he wanted to call his companions, but stopped. If this is really a Yeti, I have to see it for myself, he thought. From that moment on, the night was no longer calm. In the dark, Andre heard strange noises, as if someone was breaking branches, moving slowly and heavily among the trees. Meeting. On the 4th day of the journey, he saw something that he remembered for the rest of his life. The sun had just risen, and the sky was golden. Andre was climbing the slope, and suddenly noticed a silhouette ahead. At first, he thought it was a human, but the figure was too tall and massive. She moved confidently, but without fuss, as if she knew every path. He froze, afraid of startling her. My heart was beating fast. The footsteps of the figure became clearer and clearer, and so she came out of the fog. In front of Andre stood a creature over 2.5 meters tall. The whole body was covered with thick, dark brown fur. The shoulders are wide, the arms are long, almost to the knees. But most of all, I was struck by the eyes. They weren't the eyes of a beast. There was intelligence in them. The look is attentive, but not angry. They stared at each other for a few seconds. Andre felt fear, but also a strange respect. Time itself seemed to have stopped. Contact. The Yeti took a step forward. The snow creaked under his heavy foot. He tilted his head and made a muffled sound, somewhere between a growl and a low chant. Andre did not move. He understood. You can't show aggression. He just stood there, holding his breath. The Yeti extended a long, powerful fingered hand, but not for hitting. The gesture was like a greeting. They were only a few steps apart. At that moment, Andre felt that this was not an enemy. In front of him is the guardian of the mountains, an ancient being who looks at man as a guest. And as suddenly as it appeared, the Yeti just as calmly moved aside. His huge figure disappeared into the trees. The denouement. Andre stood motionless for a long time. He wanted to scream, to call his companions, but he couldn't. I had that look in front of my eyes. Strong, wise, full of something ineffable in words. He looked at the snow, and there were clear footprints, the only proof of the meeting. In his diary, he wrote, "Today I saw something that I didn't fully believe in myself. The Yeti exists, but it's not a beast. This is a creature that stands next to a person, but does not need him. It's peaceful as long as we don't invade its world." I realized that there are secrets that don't need to be destroyed. They need to be stored. Conclusion. This story was the beginning of a legend. People are still arguing whether Andre really saw the Yeti, or whether it was a mirage of tired consciousness. But it wasn't a dream for him. He returned to civilization a different person. Quieter, more attentive to nature. After all, one day he met someone who was called a myth. And maybe there are still huge shadows somewhere in the mountains. They don't hide. They just don't want to be seen. The Yeti does not need to be proven. There is one. And maybe one day you will hear heavy footsteps in the mountains and realize that legends live near us,